Welcome to a tutorial video designed by Hart Academy on how to make sense of your child's Stanford test scores. The Stanford Achievement Test, 10th edition, was administered to Hart Academy students in grades 1 through 7. The Otis Lennon School Ability Test, 8th edition, was also administered in grades 1 through 7. This tutorial video outlines how to read, understand, and interpret a student report. The Stanford 10 Achievement Test is a multiple-choice battery of subtests designed to gauge a student's achievement in reading, mathematics, writing, spelling, listening, science, and social sciences. It is a norm-referenced exam that compares a student's performance to students in the same grade across the nation. It is designed to give a snapshot of a student's progress. The Otis Lennon School Ability Test, more commonly known as ALSAT, is a short test designed to measure a student's reasoning and abstract thinking as it relates to their ability to learn in school. It tests verbal and nonverbal critical thinking and reasoning skills, memory, speed of thought, and ability to see relationships and patterns. The primary purpose for administering these tests is to test a student's knowledge of facts, basic skills, and concepts common to the grade level, to compare individual performance with performance of the norming group, to report relative strengths and weaknesses of each child, to provide data for studying changes or progress in performance over time, and to evaluate a student's ability to apply critical thinking skills. We will begin by looking at a student report. The Stanford Achievement Test results consists of 3 general parts. Upper center, you'll find percentile ranks and stanines. Upper right, you'll find percentile bands. And at the bottom, you'll find content clusters. Each of these sections present the same information, but in a different format. The Otis Lennon Ability Test, known as ALSAT, can be found in the middle of the report. When these tests are processed in combination, the results provide information about your child's learning style, strengths, and weaknesses. We will now focus on the Stanford Achievement Test sections. The first section is labeled Subtest and Totals. Students were tested in these following areas: reading, mathematics, language, spelling, and the sciences. In this section, you will see number possible and number correct. These numbers tell you how many questions were on each section of the test and how many your child answered correctly. This next section is called Scaled Scores. This is a statistical conversion of the number of items answered correctly. These scores may be used to note your student's growth from year to year. A rising scaled score shows that growth has occurred. The column is labeled National PR/S. This column really includes 2 scores: the percentile rank, PR, and the stanine, S. Percentile ranks and stanines are probably the best number to tell you how your child compares to other students in the same grade nationwide. The first number is the percentile rank, and this number can range from 1 to 99. The percentile rank tells you the percent of students who scored lower than your child did on the same test. Percentile ranks represent a nationwide grouping of students. The 50th percentile is average. So, for example, if your child's PR in reading comprehension is 78, this means that he or she scored higher than 78% of regular education students in their grade. The second number is the stanine. The word stanine is the combination of the words standard of 9. It refers to a score being placed on a scale from 1 to 9. Stanines provide an easy way to look at your child's performance compared to others. Stanines with the number 1, 2, and 3 indicate below average performance. Stanines with the number 4, 5, and 6 indicate average performance, and a stanine with the number 7, 8, and 9 indicate above average performance. The next column is labeled National NCE. NCE stands for the Normal Curve Equivalent. And this is a way of measuring where a student falls along the normal curve. This is a statistic that provides helpful information when studying overall school performance, and in particular, in measuring school-wide gains and losses in student achievement. If you have copies of previous test reports, you can look at your child's progress using the following guidelines. If your child's NCE scores from year to year are within 10 points of one another, your child has made 1 year of progress. For example, if your child's 4th grade reading comprehension score is a 45, and their 5th grade reading comprehension score is a 44, your child has made 1 year of progress in reading comprehension because the scores are within 10 points. The next column is the local PRS. These scores compare your child with other students attending South Carolina Independent Schools, SCISA, rather than to nationwide scores. You read the numbers the same as you would for the national percentile and stanine, but you are comparing with a smaller pool of students. The next slide we will look at the bottom of the report where you see clusters. Clusters provide an analysis of a student's performance by content area. Clusters report data by NP, number possible, NA, number attempted, and NC, number correct. The student's performance on these content areas are also reported by a check mark, placed in one of 3 columns, labeled as below average, average, or above average. This section is most helpful in pinpointing how well a student has done in specific parts of a subtest. These results allow teachers and parents to identify relative strengths and weaknesses and to determine if there are remedial topics which need to be addressed. Now we will focus on the Otis Lennon School Ability Test found in the middle section of the student report. The OLSAT measures a student's verbal and nonverbal reasoning and abstract thinking skills as it relates to their ability to learn in school. Let's look at the column labeled SAI. SAI stands for School Ability Index. The SAI score is determined by comparing scores of children within the same age group. The average SAI score is 100 with a standard deviation of 16. So for example, if your child's total SAI score is 102, they scored within the average range, which would be 84 to 116. The School Ability Index is divided into two sections, verbal and nonverbal. Generally, verbal reasoning refers to a student's ability in oral and written expression, reading and comprehension skills, and literal understanding and use of words. Students who score higher in the verbal subtest are auditory learners. They learn best when material is presented to them audibly. Verbal learners often prefer to learn through reading. Generally, nonverbal reasoning refers to a student's ability in spatial and abstract thinking. This reasoning also refers to how well students solve problems using shapes and figures. Students who score higher in the nonverbal subtest are visual learners. They learn best when material is presented to them using diagrams, flowcharts, timelines, films, and demonstrations. Visual learners often prefer to learn through pictures, images, models, and objects. This information helps teachers choose curriculum that will enhance your students' strengths while supporting their learning style. The next column is Age NCE. Again, NCE stands for Normal Curve Equivalent. This score is a way of measuring where a student falls along the normal curve of students in an age group. The next column is the National Grade Percentile Stanine. The National Percentile Rank tells you the percent of students who scored lower than your child did on the same test nationwide. The Stanine provides an easy way to look at your child's performance compared to others and is to be read as explained earlier. The next column is the Local Grade Percentile Rank Stanine. These scores compare your child with other students attending South Carolina independent schools rather than to a nationwide sample. Now let's look at the National Grade Percentile bands. If you look at the top bands, those are the National Grade Percentile bands for the Stanford Achievement Test. These bands represent a range of achievement your child demonstrated and identifies a student's relative strengths and weaknesses by subject area. The bands below those are the OLSAT National Percentile bands. These bands represent a range of ability your child demonstrated and identifies a student's ability to learn in school. When an achievement test and an ability test are administered concurrently, an ability achievement comparison is possible. If you draw a straight line from the ability bands to the achievement bands as shown on the screen, you can view if your child is performing according to his or her ability. If the bands overlap, your child is working at his or her potential. Another way to compare your child's ability and achievement is to look at the column marked AAC range. AAC stands for Ability Achievement Comparison. Each student's performance on the Stanford is compared to his or her ability using words. For example, if a student has an AAC of middle written in, this means that the student's ability, their capacity for learning, and achievement, what has been learned, are about the same in the subtest indicated. In other words, the student is working up to his or her level of ability. If high is written in, this means, in the subtests indicated, the student's achievement is actually above what would be expected. If low is written in, this means that the student's achievement is low in comparison to that of other students of the same ability. This concludes the tutorial video made by Thomas Hart Academy on how to make sense of your child's Stanford test scores. Always take into account that no one measure gets at the complete picture, and that the best measure of how a child is performing will be the observations of the parents and the teachers. If you have any further questions, please contact the office at Thomas Hart Academy. Thank you.